Welcome to our special edition. I'm Joram Weski, and I want to thank you for always listening to our programs. We want to appreciate our producers who are always in the studio to help us run this program. Today we are going to be talking about liberty or libertarianism. What is it and how is it developing in Africa? I'm Joram Weski, and I work with Action for Liberty and Economic Development. Today in the studio, I have a colleague, a libertarian from Africa Liberty Foundation. We are going to be discussing libertarianism, and I take this opportunity to appreciate people who are helping us to sponsor our program, such as Jardine Primary School, Jardine International Primary School that is located at Zoo. We also invite other partners or sponsors of our programs. Thank you very much, and Mr. Richard, welcome to our program.
Yes, thank you, Joram. My name is Kakande Richard. I am a team leader at African Liberty Foundation. It's always a pleasure sharing ideas of freedom and the liberty movement in a global and African perspective.
Okay, you're most welcome to our studio. As always, I always want to ask you how is work at Africa Liberty Foundation?
Yes, at African Liberty Foundation, we are doing well. Yes, we are, of course, warming up of launching our Women Business Magazine, which is coming up on the 9th of October. That is at Kumba graduation ceremony. We want to see how we can shape our mothers into becoming effective entrepreneurs. As well as the coming month, we are warming for the Restaurant Week, where we want to empower vegans who are doing business in Africa. We want them to have a shaped mind of their market. We want to remove barriers that could limit how they do their business, as well as the policy, the law part, what they need to register for companies, also making sure that we appreciate those who are doing well within the vegan world. So we're having that on the 6th of September, and that's what we're having so far. So those are our upcoming events.
Yeah, that's great. I believe, as far as I know, such a program, as far as I know, it started in 2013, 2014. And with time, we've seen young libertarians and libertarian organizations, think tank. I know around 7 libertarian organizations and many young people who profess to be libertarians. We've seen Mutindo Network, we've seen Alert Africa, or Action for Liberty and Economic Development, we've seen AFOD, we've seen Africa Liberty Foundation, ESCO African, and Liberty Spark. Of course, there is Africa Justice Media. All these institutions or organizations are aspiring to create a society of liberty or libertarianism. How do you see the work of libertarianism in Uganda?
Yes, of course, we have had a lot of a great movement, and we have a great of improvement where think tanks have devoted themselves to improving societies and communities. I think whereas they focus so much on improving individual aspects of economic rights, speaking to power, challenging policies through a number of projects, I think our big concern should be on the ideology. See, it is a different thing to do a project where you register what you intended to register, where you get all the outcomes of the output. But it's also another thing for the public to understand what you stand for. I've always said that you see, even in socialism or even in communist states, people start businesses. Even them do empower entrepreneurs. But the question of ideology comes at the center of it. And this is what some of the main institutions or think tanks in Africa have left out initially. We've been doing impactful projects, but people don't know. People take them for charity. People take them for, maybe supporting or covering loopholes which might have been left out by government, because that is now the social setting that governments are put into the people. When you come to NGO world, it's basically to fill up the gaps where government has not fulfilled. So the question of ideology has been one that we are still battling with, especially with the think tank leaders, not only in Uganda but across Africa. But I think when you come to the merits of what they have done, so far is so good. Remember, this is just a start.
Yes.
We haven't celebrated our first 50 years of existence, or even the first 10 years to make a big assessment of how it is. For example, the grandfather of think tanks in Uganda is just 7 years. This is the first time we have in our own studio as the Liberty Movement in Uganda, where we can come share ideas without limitations, where we can come and speak out to the public without limitations, without being briefed on what to say and what not to say. So that to me is a forward movement, and it is energizing that every day there's a lot of innovation that think tanks are doing in the country. So I think it's so far so good. We just have to air out the perception and the ideology bit.
Yes, the work or the institution, the organization involved in libertarianism are about to change the ideology, the narrative, the culture. We are in the battle of ideas, see how people behave in our communities in terms of the ideology. Africa is engulfed by culture of selfishness. I mean, the culture of Ubuntu, the culture of a man taking care of the other, the culture of where socialism is what the government actually espouse and agitate for. And the work we are doing, we are about to correct that and position an individual in the realm of freedom, in the position that an individual owns his enterprise independently without much government interference. How can we actually quickly introduce this idea and actually be bought by the African population? How can we do that very quickly with immediate effect?
See, we cannot rush the ideology perspective. Why? Because even where we are learning it from, even where we are borrowing a leaf, not everyone has actually got up or put up their slaves.
I believe that
if you look at today, the UK, the US, we are still battling a two-party system. People know what made those nations wealthy, but the generation we are talking of doesn't care. Capitalism was the foundation of building wealth. But is it the system that the US or the UK is implementing, based on their tax system, based on how they're doing their things? That's the point. So we are going to have what we call a gradual, impactful process. We are going to engage all stakeholders. We are going to work with different
it can be gradual, but we need to somehow expedite it.
Yes, but we cannot rush it.
Yes.
Why? Because unlike other ideologies, when it comes to things that are fundamental, we do our part and influence others to adopt them.
Yes.
We don't force them. It's not communism. We're not at war with society or with whatever they believe in.
Exactly.
Ours is voluntary. So we do it and we inspire others. We show them the good side. We show them that yes, there's no problem in being selfish of what you've had earned. And it is better to be selfish of what you've had earned than giving someone liberty to take whatever they have not worked for in the name of taxes and all that. Yes. So our part is gradual but impactful. Exactly. That's our position. So the how far or how much quicker can we do it would be dependent on how much we engage with the communities on a daily basis, often in the impactful projects that we do. Of course, we have a lot of these good programs, these good books that have been authored, Tom Palmer, Eamon Butler, and the rest. But how often do we translate them into local languages that people can pick and live from there? So how many times do we come to this studio and make sure we share to the world? How often do we engage our leaders? When do we choose to make some of us stand in for politics and make sure our voices are heard? How much do we challenge the parliament? How much do we challenge these policies in courts of law? So it's going to be a gradual but impactful process. And I'm very sure because it's coming on board.
Yes, our listeners may be wondering at this time.
Yes.
And they are desirous of knowing what are we talking about? What exactly are those principles, those ideals that the libertarians actually espouse? Can we have short, brief mention of these ideas the libertarian believe?
The world has been fond of giving names to what we do or what everyone does. It's in a classification that if both of you don't eat meat, then you're vegans. I usually find the problem of giving specific names of what these ideas are, but I think the things that we do in our everyday life. One of the aspects or a proponent of a libertarian is being free. See, I want to simplify things. It's being free. Being free to do what your heart speaks. Being free to trade with others.
Yes.
Being free to exchange your knowledge for a price.
Yes.
Being free to offer a service for a price. And being free to earn whatever you've worked for. So the first aspect of the bigger society is having a market that is more freer, where my innovation cannot be stolen from me, where I can exchange it with Joram and Joram pays me.
Yes.
Even if he doesn't pay for a price, where I can give you a cup and you give me a basket of rice, for as long as we've consciously agreed to it.
So there we see the aspect of property right,
of free market and property rights.
We
yes.
see the aspect of ownership.
Yes. First of all, the voluntary exchange, and two,
yes,
that I own whatever I have worked for.
Yes.
Yes. And we think that the biggest limitation to that has been the laws. And these laws are coined by a group of people whom somehow we say we've given power under the theme of social contract, which actually is not there, because the last time I checked my date, I don't remember signing any contract with government. You see? But it's called that we have a social contract with some people whom we call MPs that make laws and government forces them on us.
I think that is a consumption, perception by the socialists.
It's not a perception. It's what actually they are doing.
Yes,
that's
what they are promoting.
Yes, they graduated from perceiving it to now doing it.
They are doing it,
yes.
Of course.
So we think that we must limit whoever is not in the equation of how we exchange goods for value or services for value, and we must limit anyone who endangers what we've earned. So that is free enterprise or free markets and property rights.
Yes.
And two, in case we have any problem in our exchange, that we see we can have justice amicably.
And I see we should look at the rule of law.
Yes. So we now come to the aspect of if you've earned something genuinely, no one has rights over it. If you've bought land, then no one should transgress it. No one should trespass on it. If you've bought a car, it is yours. You should be able to sell it, you should be able to exchange it, you should be able to use it for any activity, for as long as it is within the legal mandate. So that is, now we come to the justice part. And then we have the aspect of how does those who choose to be in power live there, and how do they manage our affairs? So we now have bring in the aspect of government. Libertarians don't want, we say we don't disagree with governments, and we're not against them. But we just know how far they should go with our mandate. Remember, it's ours, the mandate is ours. That's the first thing. So we say that government should have some little money from us to manage its activities. And that little money should cater for our security, bigger number. Of course, you can see the role is not so big. So we don't believe in a bigger number of them.
We believe in limited.
Yes, we believe that it should be a small number because even the roles are small. Yes. So it's a small number, and they should use a little of the money.
And when you look at Ayn Rand, he says,
yes,
there are three fundamental roles of government. That is justice,
yes,
inside, defense,
yes,
from external aggression, then
people. So we don't need that big parliament. We don't need that big government where we have duplicity of roles. You see, you have a president, then you have an RDC in the area, you have a deputy RDC, then you have an RCC, then you have ministers, then you have cow or the district, then you have GISO, you have DISO. Almost all of them are doing the same part and being paid on our money.
Yeah, I think next time we shall be discussing the morality of government. Why do we need a government?
Why? Which government, and which type of government do we think that we need, and how it should be? So I have clearly talked about the free enterprise and the free markets.
Yes.
I've talked about the thought. I would want to talk about, or to expatiate, would be how or who then are we in that system. So for us, we say,
and that is the essence of property rights.
yes. So we say you are you. In whatever we said, we start with you. Life starts with you and ends with you. So we say,
what on that? On top of that, what is your comment to Ayn Rand suggestion that individual should be selfish? When you say you are you,
an individual should be selfish, and I think that Ayn Rand only spoke what characters always exhibited.
We are always selfish.
People, even those who are selfish, say they are not, but indeed they are. Because if they weren't selfish, then there's no reason of one waking up to go to work.
Yes.
There's no reason of one taking care of their own children. You see, children in Africa, the general African perspective, is something to earn from. Raise them so that they can take care of you when you are old. You see, you raise a cow, take it to graze so that you can have milk from it. So you must be jealous of, first of all, of yourself and everything that makes you happy. You see, selfishness gives you happiness. The first thing you want to go and earn is to be happy. Happiness might be subjective. Everyone might have how they feel happy, how they want to spend their resources.
Time is not on our side.
Yes.
Uganda is embattled with very many useless welfare programs.
Yeah.
Such as PDM.
Yeah.
Paris Development Window, that is PDM, that is Wealth Operation, Wealth Creation,
yes,
Youth Livelihood Program, and very many others.
Yeah.
And this is a contradiction to economics.
Yeah.
And also the ideas we've been discussing.
Yes.
Because these are political programs that are meant to dispose the video of their own wealth.
Yeah.
You produce, you build your factory, you invest, but someone, in terms of tax, he comes and takes your money, then gives it to someone else. So through such a program, don't you think government is the first enemy as far as wealth creation through such programs?
It is true that the government is the first enemy, and our objective view on welfare principle is that we don't outrule it entirely, but we say it should be the last fishing net of a failing economy.
What do you mean by when you say you don't rule it out completely?
We don't rule it out because there are situations where people have gathered themselves to create value to amass resources to uplift themselves. It is still welfare.
There are some organizations, associations,
it is still welfare
between individuals,
but
who come together willingly without force.
Yes,
how the government does it.
yes. And this has been our position, that we have the hierarchy of how development is supposed to be. Initially, it was my personal opinion, my own opinion, that you see, we must do a computer with the welfare. And one of the trainings I've had in Dar es Salaam, I met Palma, and we had a very light discussion of this. And you see, and now I broadened how I see welfare. You see, it should be that it's the last thing, whether it is done by government or by human. It should be the last resort.
Who should arrange?
And we say, who should arrange for that? It should come from the individuals themselves. It should not be
the association.
It should not be a government initiative, because once government initiates it, then it has to.
Then we should talk about privatization. Seems like NSSF should be privatized.
Of course, I think NSSF it has long overview, but NSSF had to be privatized. Why? Because look,
people should be willing to actually invest in social security fund themselves
privately under insurance.
Yes.
Yeah, they will just insure themselves and make sure. Yes, but the welfare principle should be the last neck that we look at as a country. One, if you support free markets, if government supports free markets, then it's obvious that people lift themselves out of poverty. That's it. That's for real. And the second one, if the approach of the free market fails to work out because of any reasons, for example, look at the situation. Palma was giving me that example. That look at nations where they have been torn down by war. You get that really the exchange becomes difficult now. Yes. You cannot put anything on the market readily. You get, or that there is that sort of instability. So if a government lobbies outside, maybe for partners to come and bring in something, and the point is to give back to water free market again, then welfare is acceptable. That's why I say it must come at the least ladder, and it must be there to support free market, not to become a way of life that government uses to change lives. It must come to support entrepreneurs to thrive again. What we're seeing in Africa, governments are using it to actually as a government policy of alleging that people will live out of poverty using that PDM model.
That has a contradiction.
Yeah.
When they talk about welfare, it is against the moral standard of the principle we cite, self-ownership.
Yeah.
When they talk about welfare, it means coming to your neck, dipping their hand in your pocket, to take what they have.
Yeah.
That is essentially what it means to run a welfare program.
A welfare program, I want to reiterate my position again. If we are living in normal times, it has no space. But if we are living in a situation where exchange, free markets have no way out to thrive, what should then economies do?
Don't you think private organization like USAID, like Uganda Red Cross, plays important role than giving government an entitlement of welfare program?
Many of these
have seen these wonderful organizations.
Yes, but many of them
use of force.
Many of them are limited to humanity.
Yes.
If you bring the Red Cross, many of them are limited to humanity. Yes. But building an economy, it might not be in their mandate.
Yes.
So in terms where, and for example, look at Libya.
Yes.
How then do you support Libya? I think then the government, if it has generosity of getting money from outside or from whatever source they choose, to make sure that they put up markets again. What's the problem with putting up markets again? So I guess they would agree with welfare to that extent that now they have hit the rock bottom. They have no way out. That's the only way they can do to make sure that markets thrive again. I think that one.
Africa did not have government originated markets.
Yeah.
They started from private arrangements.
Yes, individual arrangements.
All the trade routes we had.
Yes. They
were all initiated by individual, private businessmen, traveling from north to Uganda, traveling to Tanzania, traveling to west, across those trade routes. When you look at the agitation for the intervention to provide welfare program, as you're saying, it should be the last resort. What is your suggestion? Government has become dictatorial, government has become corrupt, and they have set great bureaucracy whereby the taxpayer cannot reach them. And one of the things that government pretend say to collect tax, that they want to help the poor person, the person at the bottom when he's in dire situation. When the government, we've seen in Uganda, when the government collect money and elsewhere, government enrich, the politicians enrich themselves first. They become too rich. And in fact, in Uganda, the most lucrative business is politics.
Yes.
And everyone is fighting to be in business.
In that business, yes. It's a principle that we can rely on for the rejuvenation of free markets. That's a principle.
Yes.
If the government is not doing so to rejuvenate free markets, then absolutely the government is overstretching its hand beyond what we gave it in our mandate, putting them into power. That's the point. So, for the case of Uganda, in 1971, we saw the expulsion of the Asians. We saw our economy dwindling, and Uganda's economy has succeeded. The regime was a socialist ideology.
The Ujama policy.
Yes. We realized that we came from a flying pan to fire. When the NRM succeeded, all those, the NRM came with they call it a uni-ideological approach, which they are covering under communism and Marxism. And eventually, we landed from fire to a hot plate. Now, what we have now is a limitation of everything. So the government now in Uganda does not have more authority to apply the welfare principle. As they have been in power, the markets which they're limiting by themselves under the tax system, and the way businesses take long to be registered in Uganda, the level of corruption, the bureaucracy in the procedure of registration of companies and who owns which company in Uganda now becomes a problem that we can no longer, the government can no longer hide within the last neck of welfare to lift Ugandans out of aggregate poverty, because it is out of their own strategy. You see, the poverty in Uganda and the economic failure in Uganda is systemic. It is a design by the government. Imagine, you put up a system that cannot empower people to find jobs, and when they go abroad, you tax them. So meaning, you are more interested in them going outside they can leave your tax than creating enterprises that can actually give jobs to these people. This is what we are having in Uganda. It's a systemic and a government staged process upon which people can live how the government wants them to live. So that, I hope that answers your question of whether Uganda will have the moral authority to live and rely on it.
As libertarian, we believe in open borders.
Yes.
We believe in free visa.
Yes.
For the citizens
yes.
of Africa or the world
yes.
at large. In that sense, Africa will trade.
Yeah.
Africa will be employed.
Yes.
Africa will increase production.
Yes.
And Africa will prosper. When we look at what is happening in Africa, Uganda is sometimes in war with Kenya, trade wars.
Yes, but smaller wars.
Yes, Uganda and Sudan, they are in wars, trade wars.
Yes.
And Uganda and Rwanda, they were in political wars.
Yeah, recently, when they closed the Katuna border.
The border was closed. When you look at Libya, when you look at Western Africa, they are in coups.
Yeah.
When you look at our neighbor Congo, the M23,
Yes.
There is a political battle everywhere, almost Somalia.
Yes.
We are talking about developing Africa. How do we develop Africa with greater security?
Free markets operate.
Because when you look at Uganda, we want to promote East African trade.
Yes.
But we want to unite Africa, actually, East Africa. There are some voices which are talking about united Africa. When you come in Uganda, you'll find a person who does not want to leave power.
Yes.
You will go to Rwanda, some people, the presidency say 99% has voted me.
Yeah.
All people in Africa, all presidents in Africa, they have a character of political power entitlement.
Yeah.
How can we correct the political question of Africa to develop Africa?
I think that we must have a gradual approach to it. We look at what is our biggest mistake. The biggest African mistake is the politics of identity, where we are associating ourselves with tribes, with the region, and that's when we choose who's supposed to be in power, who's not supposed to be in power. And whoever goes into power wants to favor his own what? Now, when we bring in the idea of imperialism or whatever factor finds us a broken state to unite. But this is my position, that when we are to set people to lift their standards, we don't care who is in power, as long as he has the right ideology. And I, for one, don't care how long they take in power, as long as they have the right ideology. I have seen countries where they're under, you look at UAE. Look at the people who are associated with the UAE, sort of a kingdom. But they have a level of the free market down here. People are able to do whatever they want, to own property the way they want. What's wrong with that? What my main concern is the ideology part. If you have the right ideology, it doesn't matter how long you stay in power. You can fight your political battles, but for as long as anyone can identify themselves and they can work and earn, and they have protection of whatever they have earned. Me, that's my question. If we come to side of politics, that might be another discussion. But the one of from the Hebrew mindset, I think it is the ideology. It's ideology.
So I think we shall have to discuss the politics and its morality, and how some individual can preside the rulership or the governance of a country, earning the entitlement, earning resources,
life presidency.
Yes, but other people are not allowed to be part of the enrichment that politics gives such a politicians. Uganda is a country with a big government.
Yes.
With big size of parliament, with a big ministers, cabinet ministers and state ministers, big number of RDC. The president has just appointed the RDCs and RCC and all that. And most Ugandans, what they think, government gives people jobs. And what they think, creating districts, administrative units, the municipalities, is subsidiary to the people. Why are politicians prone to lying people that government is a source of prosperity?
Yes, and I think it is a wrong notion that people think that government is a source of prosperity. One, government should be small in size. Yes. So a 45 million population country, all of it cannot fit within the government. And not even a quarter of it can fit within the government. So it's a lie that government is a source of wealth. The actual source of wealth is in enterprise. Where does the government get the money it uses itself? It's from the tax. So where is the source of tax? Entrepreneurship. That's the point. So I think people have to change how they see things. They should actually focus on entrepreneurship than the government. Politicians, the question asked, why are politicians lying to the people? Because that's the only way they survive. That's the only way they survive. It is the naked lies that make you believe them. But actually, politicians have nothing to offer without the middle class. The solutions that you see in the world are created by entrepreneurs, not politicians. No politician invented vaccine, not even aeroplane, not even the vaseline, not even the research that you put on, not even, not even medicine. These are all created by middle class. So the solution and uplifting your welfare is by you having money, being able to produce something that you can exchange for money and change your life. I don't know why people are actually so much agitated when it comes to that. Everyone thinks that the government is the big deal and is a phenomenal source of wealth and all that. Where you find that governments, the officials in government are more rich than those in public, it is just net and clear that you've had a failed state. That is per se. You see, for as long as you find that you have the richest government and its people or the entrepreneurship people, the entrepreneurs and the local people are dwindling in aggregate poverty, then the government is a failed regime. That is for sure. Why? Because government usually has nothing to offer. Solutions are created by us, individuals and private companies.
Yes, I think we shall complete our discussion with two quotes from two prominent philosopher and economist, one from Ayn Rand, the philosopher of objectivism, and this quote is from the book The Atlas Shrugged, which was published in 1957. The quote says, when you see that in order to produce, you need to obtain permission from men who produce nothing, when you see that money is flowing to those who deal not in goods but in favors, when you see that men get richer by graft and the law do not protect you against them but protect them against you, when you see corruption is being rewarded and honesty becoming self-sacrifice, you may know that your society is doomed. Exactly. That is Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, 1957.
Exactly.
When you look at this quote, it actually manifests what is happening in Uganda.
In Uganda, yes.
Corruption is the norm,
appreciated,
being rewarded, and those who
produce nothing, actually the ones who are granting us and granting us permission to produce. Yes.
You see, those who are corrupt are being praised. We see Mr. President saying that those who are corrupt should not talk about them because they will run out of the country. And they should not be investigated. And people who produce nothing, like politicians, are being rewarded by the laws. What is your comment to Uganda's political economy in relation to such a quote?
Uganda's, of course, Ayn Rand was right. Uganda's political economy lost the vigor to take us anywhere as a country. The best it can give us is maybe having the same status as you see it now. We don't think that we can move away from here. And I think that we must change the political ideology that Uganda is moving on with. The regime in power, not to criticize, but to be frank with them, is that you cannot appreciate corruption in the first place. And two, if the only way the government can survive is by corruption, then I think it is time that they leave. It should be a clear time that they leave. That's what I can comment. Actually, what Rand was saying is exactly and very right 100%.
It is ironic that since that we talked about 60 years back, a real baiting our society and the news every day in Uganda's economy. Yes, the last quote is from Frederick Bassett, a French politician, a legislator and author. And Frederick Bassett said, when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over a course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. I want you to look at Uganda's law. the laws in Uganda.
Yes,
The laws in Uganda glorifies.
one of the former presidents of this very country said that the chair is sweet.
Yes.
She meant that when you enter the house,
You don't have to leave.
you don't want to leave. Yes, that it is so sweet that you don't want to leave it.
The power.
So if you find that the only limitation you have for you to stay there is the law, so you turn it to your advantage.
Yes.
So what we have today is much of our laws, even those that have been good, have been put down by the plunder. We've seen a number of laws.
That one, it is safe.
Yeah, it's safe. It's open. It's openly theft using the laws. We've seen, of course, there are a lot of limitations. A country like Uganda, why are we still having the parliament?
526 MPs.
That's what is that? And then you go ahead, you pass laws where all of the elites understand them. They're still written in a legalese language, not even simple English, but a legalese language, so that no one understands what you are doing. And then you walk out from there, you come and see laws are being changed every day. Look at the US. People are talking about the 6th Amendment. How many amendments has our constitution undergone? Ours is newer than the one of the US. But ours has been overturned, underlooked, overlooked, a million times. Then, that's the point.
Yeah. So Ugandan laws,
much of it
have been enacted, help those in power,
to favor those in power to take advantage of
and looting
the common people. Yes, so we become. You see, every action has consequences.
What is your argument when those politicians say that democracy allows us to plunder or to do laws that enrich us? Of course, we see the parliament recently says Buga should reward himself under the commissioners.
Yeah. And the court said that it was legal. Yes. Because that was the law. I think that that is the legal plunder itself. That's a plunder, and we cannot run away from it unless we now have a consulted house full of libertarians. Otherwise, we have no way out. All other forms of governance take you to that. Take you that you see you become superior the day you are appointed into power. That's a position. And I think the Mpuga question, together with whoever awards themselves
because
the taxpayers' money.
The quotes like this one is ironical. That they are not points us.
Actually, in Uganda, they are not ironical. In Uganda, they are direct.
They really talk about
those people spoke as though they are living in our world today. But good enough is that I'm sure by the time Bastiat Orand made those comments, they were living like us. You see, many of those countries are ahead of us about 50 to 100 years. The society we're living in now, they have lived in them. Maybe by that time, that was the form of governments that we
I think those countries, by then they were ahead compared to the status in Uganda. America was more advanced than Uganda is today.
If you look at
the America of there is a question as we conclude our program.
Yes.
Uganda is embattled in lack of an ideology that gives individual free speech. The ideology that gives individual independence and supremacy. When you look at the Uganda Constitution, it says power belongs to the people, but that is a total abuse when we talk about power and how power is being exercised. How as libertarian, or what is the best way to put it clear for Uganda, the current legal system, the current constitution is not part of Ugandan. It does not give Ugandans power and Ghanaans should actually fight to embrace that.
We don't have any simpler.
Yes, but how do we reach out the ideology that gives them freedom, that gives them independence?
You see, the only way is by changing leaders.
No, I always talk about this. We may change a dictator without changing. Like, we may fight a dictator.
That's my position. That was my first position.
Or may fight a dictator without fighting dictatorship.
That was my first position. That our aggregate position should be to get the right ideology. I said I don't care how many times you spend in power as long as you have the right ideology. That was my position. It answers this at the same time. That Ugandans know that the constitution does not belong to you. Because when you speak, you are arrested. Who doesn't know that? Who doesn't live in that fear? Who hasn't seen media being censored? I saw it was on Capital FM some time back. One of the journalists called President Museveni. I don't remember the right word, but she said that he is the chiefest thief. See, and the lady her program was censored, and Capital FM had released an immediate apology to the president.
Was that Nora Waraga?
I'm forgetting the name, but I was listening to that program. Can you imagine that even our own opinion, a whole radio station bows down, the journalism studio bows down and apologizes for saying actually the right thing. See? Then the next day they produce news that Museveni has said you should leave my corrupt officials.
As we conclude,
now, why would I be apologizing? You get my position.
As we conclude,
yes.
I think the way out to get out of this mess, have a better constitution, have a system of governance that respecting citizens. We need to empower more of the citizens, educate them in free market ideas, so that we have a number of people who actually can come out in civil contest.
It just has to be the liberal ideology. As long as we enhance the liberal ideology within the communities, everything will pay by itself. Even those that don't believe in it now, if they get to understand it well, no one would not want to join a world where they are more freer and they can ably exchange and they can ably get well and get rich.
Yes, as we conclude our program, I want to take this opportunity to thank the producers, RP from First Mind Media, Basil, Mr. Socrates from Eclipse Media for being part and always part of our programs. I want to once again appreciate the sponsor of this wonderful program for being there. I want to appreciate to our listeners and those people who are always subscribing to our YouTube channel, Alex Media Live. I'm appealing to you to share our platform and also subscribe. Click the button, subscribe please. We are very humbled that we are always here to discuss with you about the ideology, the liberal idea that we think the most fundamental and more important as far as the economy, social aspect, and politics of Uganda and Africa as are concerned. I request Richard to have one last word as we conclude our program.
Yes, mine is a simple one, is that everyone is for themselves. No one is going to save you. The government will not come for you, just like it has never done it for anyone. Everyone is for themselves. So the earlier you understand that, is the more you take on the ideology that will shape you, will shape your people, the community around you, and that will result into the future that we all admire, a free world. That's what we should admire, and that's what we should all advocate for.
Yes,
thank you.
As I said, as Richard has said, your life belongs to you. The wealth you have should belong to you. And when you are poor, there's nobody who know you. Until you become rich, that's when the government will come for the taxes. So I'm appealing to every Ghanaian to advocate for institutions of the society that gives him liberty, freedom, and independence.